Okay, we'll start now. See, today we are going to discuss next chapter in ethics syllabus, that is aptitude and foundational values for civil service. Now, this is an important chapter, not because direct questions come, because uh, recent trend, as we have seen, is that uh, direct questions are not coming from uh, these chapters, but definitely understanding this is going to help in answering the indirect questions which come, uh, and also the case studies. So the understanding concept is required here, because definitely what is aptitude or what are the foundational values for civil service, this kind of or these kind of questions in recent years we have not seen coming. So here for this chapter, because usually the questions are coming for 2 3 chapters combined, or some indirect application questions are coming even in theoretical part, that is section A. So here what we should try as a student, we should try to understand the concept basically. So my presentation and my discussion will be quite brief. The books which have been prescribed, which I have already earlier suggested in earlier classes, you can anyway read in detail to understand these concepts in detail, and then try to also understand how these concepts are applicable to civil service or public administration or civil administration, so that actually when indirect questions come, or the questions combining 3 4 chapters come, you are able to answer better. So now this today's chapter or today's topic is aptitude and foundational values for civil service. In last class, we had understood attitude. Regarding, we have studied regarding attitude. Now this we are in this class we are going to study regarding aptitude and foundational values of civil service. Now, what is aptitude actually, and how it differs with attitude, that also we'll try to understand in subsequent paragraphs. But what is attitude and how it is relevant, aptitude and how it is relevant to civil service? See, aptitude refers to, there are two kinds. For attitude also it's the same thing, and for aptitude also. Some capacities are innate and some are cultivated. So there are two kinds, because it can be aptitude also can be cultivated, attitude also like that. So basically innate as well as cultivated capacities that allow an individual to understand situations, learn new skills, take decisions, and deliver results. So this is in brief, in very simple word, the meaning of aptitude. Now in public service, what is its meaning and how it's useful? See, in public service, it's not just academic ability. It also includes the ability to grasp complex administrative realities, make sense of conflicting interests, and respond with both competence and fairness. And these kind of situations continuously keep on coming in administration, in any, civil service administration, public administration. Because why? Because in next paragraph we'll try to understand civil servants usually operate under time constraint, political pulls, emotional disturbances, social expectations, and moral pressures. So all these are basically various pressures and pulls under which a civil servant operates. And therefore, the aptitude becomes very, very important. Why? Because pure knowledge is inadequate. Here, what is needed? Right mental orientation or right mental capacity is required. So, therefore, aptitude becomes very important. Now, there are modern scholars, thinkers, what they have said about Aptitude, David McClelland, emphasized that high achievers combine ability with internal motivation. Similarly, Herbert Simon showed how decision making in government is always constrained by limited information. This is very, very significant because, see, in a government scenario, you will not have, in most of the times, you will not have full information. Therefore, officers require judgment, clarity, and presence of mind. And these are governed by aptitude. Similarly, second ARC, Administrative Reforms Commission report, ARC, a very critical document for ethics or ethical governance or ethics in governance. So this document repeatedly stresses that aptitude without ethical grounding can easily become manipulative, while ethics without aptitude results in paralysis. So these are two, things. One is ethical grounding. Second is aptitude. Both are required in administration. That also we'll see in subsequent paragraphs. Now, aptitude has three pillars. There are three, you can say, main components of aptitude. One is cognitive, then social, and then moral. Cognitive aptitude is basically analytic ability, pattern recognition, logical reasoning. Social aptitude is communication, empathy, understanding people's perspective. Moral aptitude is capacity to choose the right course even when it is inconvenient. So this is very, very significant and very important. And it is required that a civil servant must cultivate all the three: cognitive, social, as well as moral. All the three kinds of, or three pillars or three components of aptitude should be available for a successful, or should be within a civil servant for him to be successful. Now, as I told earlier, how aptitude and attitude are related, let us see, and how both matter for a civil servant or for civil service. See, aptitude concerns what a person can do. Attitude concerns how a person intends to do. So one is what, another is how. Now, for a civil servant, if he is with poor attitude, he becomes arrogant, insensitive, or authoritarian. If you see other side, if he is a warm-hearted officer but not having aptitude, then he becomes well-meaning but ineffective. So what we require for a civil servant to be effective, as well as ethically correct, compassionate, with empathy, work with empathy, you require both attitude as well as aptitude. Now, Aristotle, he said that character shapes conduct. Like that, another thinker, he showed attitudes drive organizational behavior. And UPSC also expects that competence and disposition both should be blended with each other. There should not be either or. It should not be that competence at cost of disposition or disposition at cost of competence. Both attitude and aptitude are equally important for a civil servant, and that's what is expectation of UPSC also. Now, after understanding aptitude, let us see in brief what are the various foundational values for public service. This is again very, very important, because these values, there are a list of 7 to 8 values which are very significant for civil servants and required for public service. These are equally important for interview also, and anyway for day-to-day functioning in civil services. So now these values act as a moral architecture of administration. They guide conduct when rules fall silent or pressures arise. So this is very, very significant, because when rules are not clear, or when there is a various pressures and pulls, we have already seen what kind of pressures. There will be political pressure, there will be family pressure, there will be, there will be shortage of time, there will be shortage of resources. So all those problems will be there. So most important, or one of the important values is integrity. And as you may be knowing, in ACRs, which is called Annual Performance Appraisal Reports, APARs, there is a column that integrity is beyond doubt. So every year, the reporting officer certifies, and which is also accepted by reviewing officer and accepting officer, that integrity of a civil servant is beyond doubt. So integrity has to be beyond doubt. Now, what does it mean? Integrity means moral consistency. That is, you are same person in private as well as in public. You are same person in words and in action, because whatever you are saying, you will do. Whatever you are in a public, you will be doing same thing in private. And what it demands honesty, transparency, and internal resistance to wrongdoing. So this is basically integrity. Now, Gandhiji repeatedly emphasized that ethical public life is impossible without purity of means. Means are equally important than ends. And integrity is one of the important component of means. Kant's moral philosophy also echoes that duty-based ethics or deontology of Kant, So that also, echoes the same thing. Not only that, even Upanishads also, Satyam Vad, Dharmam Char, captures the same spirit. You have to speak truth. You have to behave like, correctly, because dharma means duty. You have to behave like just like duty based. So in administration, integrity prevents corruption and also ensures credibility. There are both components. One, corruption, another, credibility. And I can tell you this very, very important, that citizens accept difficult decisions, because many times a civil servant has to take difficult decisions. So citizens or the persons who are being affected by that, they accept that decisions when they trust the officer's sincerity. This is very, very important. If there is no trust, they will not accept easily. They will do agitations, and they will start opposing in numerous ways. But if they understand that officer is sincere, they trust him, even difficult decisions they will accept happily. Now, second important value is impartiality. This is again very, very important. Impartiality is basically ability to take decisions without prejudice or favor, relying solely on merits. It requires an internal discipline, of course, to ignore personal likes, because one may be having personal liking or disliking, but then you are going as per merits. Group identities, ideological leanings, or social pressures. So all these you have to avoid. Now, what Max Weber says about this, because as you know, he was one of the very, very important sociologists who has written extensively on bureaucracy. He argued that modern bureaucracy exists precisely to ensure neutral rule-bound action. In Constitution of India also, Article 14 and 16 mandates equal treatment, equality before law. So impartiality is important in civil service, because particularly in, some examples have been given: recruitment, law and order, welfare benefits, taxation, dispute resolution, etc. Because these are few examples, but almost everywhere impartiality is important. But these are few examples which are very, very critical. So once officer's neutrality is doubted, the legitimacy of entire administrative process collapses. So this is very, very important again. Another linked thing is non-partisanship. This is linked in a way to impartiality, because it basically talks about political leanings and political affiliations. But if somebody is impartial, he will be impartial for all political, all persons of different political colors and hues. So non-partisanship is basically a commitment to serve all governments equally, while keeping personal or political preferences out of administrative conduct. Because as you know, in democracy, governments keep on changing. One party today, one party is ruling, tomorrow some other party may come. So the for a civil servant, and as in India it happens, civil servants are, I mean, it's career based civil services here. So continuously for 30-35 years, civil servants will be same. So they have to be non-partisan. Now Woodrow Wilson, as you know, I mean, important political thinker and also politician, he says that politics administration distinction, and another thinker, Paul Appleby, views on moral public administration. Both these thinkers underline necessity of such neutrality. Not only this, there is a specific mention in AIS conduct rules also. This is also again another reference document which is very, very important. Just like second ARC, AIS conduct rules are also quite important, and Constitution of India also. So India's AIS conduct rules, and similarly there are state service conduct rules also. I mean, AIS we are quoting because we are dealing with UPSC, but state public service commissions or state services, they have state conduct rules. Now these rules strictly prohibit political involvement. So a non-partisan civil service is important, very important in a democracy like India, for stabilizing the governance, because here political leadership changes every, I mean, periodic intervals, maybe 5 years, 10 years, depending on the elections, but that's what happens. So next important foundational value is objectivity. Again, very, very important. Objectivity is, what is this? Choosing options based on facts, evidence, procedures, and reason, not emotions or personal relationships. So it is the discipline of letting the case speak for itself. This is a different way of saying the same thing. Because if somebody is objective, definitely he is not going to be influenced by his personal relationships or emotions or feelings. One of the thinkers, Herbert Simon's idea of rational decision making, and Kautilya, Indian thinker, prehistoric times, insistence on evidence-based judgments, both reflect this value. And what it does, objectivity protects officers from arbitrariness and helps them withstand political pressure. Because if any civil servant is objective, usually he will feel less political pressure, because he can explain how decisions are made in an objective manner, and accordingly he can withstand the pressure. And where it is quite important, this objectivity thing, it is important in whole administration, but some critical examples if you want: land allotment, tenders, recruitment, disciplinary action. So in all these cases, these are very, very critical examples where objectivity is very, very critical. If the concerned authority is not objective, a lot of damage to administration will occur. Another important foundational value is dedication to public service. Dedication and commitment are very, very key, because if somebody is committed, somebody is dedicated, he is going to work better. So this value reflects that a genuine commitment to public welfare above personal convenience. And from where it arrives, public office is a trust, not a privilege. So basically, a civil servant is a trustee. Vivekanand, what he says, that service to humanity is the highest form of worship. Gandhi's idea of Sarvodaya, because Gandhi, welfare of all. Similarly, Mill's utilitarian principle, all converge here. Dedication to public service. What a dedicated officer does, he takes the responsibility, acts proactively in crisis, and remains oriented to the needs of poorest and most voiceless citizens. So basically, this is also one of the important foundational value of civil service. Now, very, very important is empathy and compassion. And this also, empathy and compassion, both are included in emotional intelligence propounded by Daniel Goleman. So when we study emotional intelligence, there also we will study these values. But these are also foundational values and very, very critical values for making a good civil servant. What is empathy? Empathy is ability to understand the feelings, fears, and struggles of others. For example, tribals are there, scheduled castes are there, scheduled tribes, other downtrodden communities are there, women is there. So these communities or these uh, uh, underprivileged sections, their struggle, their feelings, their fears can be understood by those officers who are empathetic to their uh, demands or their feelings. So empathy is very, very critical. It enables an officer to view a situation from citizens' perspective. Daniel Goleman, as I already told, identifies empathy as a core element of emotional intelligence. Carol Gilligan propounded ethics of care, one of the important ethical theories. Also argues that moral decisions must consider human relationship. Gandhian thought, an idea of Antyodaya, also places empathy at the center of governance. Gandhi is very, very important proponent of empathetical governance. So that also, I mean, we know, I mean, the Gandhian talisman that whenever you are in doubt, remember the poorest person which you have seen, and you will not make a wrong decision. So this was Gandhi's advice to bureaucrats and politicians. So this is very, very important and significant. So empathy basically improves grievance redressal, makes welfare schemes humane, and helps officers communicate effectively with vulnerable groups. Next is tolerance. Tolerance is basically, if you, particularly in a country like India, where religion, caste, creed, languages, all are diverse. And as you know, particularly IS and IPS, All India Service Officers, they go from one state to other for serving. So most of the, I mean, officers may not serve in their own region or their own state. So they may, unless they respect the diversity and start accommodating the beliefs, feelings, language of others, the administration will be difficult. So what is tolerance? Tolerance means accommodating diversity in beliefs, cultures, and viewpoints. John Rawls, one of the important thinkers, he argued that in a pluralistic society, uh, stability requires that citizens accept the legitimacy of diverse worldviews. In Indian historical times, if you see Emperor Ashoka's edict encouraged respect for all schools of thought. For administration, tolerance is crucial for handling communal tensions, ideological conflicts, or disputes. So this is again very, very important. And usually some areas or some states do frequently face these kind of conflicts. So one has to be tolerance. I mean, tolerant to these feelings, these beliefs, etc. Another important, which is related with empathy, as I already told earlier, is compassion. So compassion is basically empathy translated into action. It means recognizing suffering and taking steps to reduce it. So there are vulnerable groups. You first understand their suffering, understand their problems, and then take steps to reduce. So this is compassion. So this helps in designing better, for example, shelters, helping distressed citizen, or responding sensitively during disasters. These are few examples, but there are numerous others. The teachings of Buddha, Mother Teresa, and in general Indian tradition all teach compassion. Now governments cannot function without compassion. So this is very, very clear because they make the administration humane. Now these are important critical values, foundational values. There are other related values also for strengthening governance. Just I will list it out. One is accountability, because as a civil servant you are accountable to various institutions. One is RTI, then CAG, CVC, all, and the institutional checks also, their own institution is there to check, hierarchy is there to check. Nowadays courts are also, in numerous cases, they are uh, increasing accountability of civil servants. So courts also, particularly high courts and Supreme Court, these are also important institution to make civil service or executive accountable. Then transparency. Transparency is already we have discussed earlier, so we need not. But then again, transparency here in different meaning it has been used. Ensure openness, that citizens can trust institutions, and it is strengthened by e-governance, because now most of the places governance has become e-governance. So that increases the transparency. Then courage of conviction, standing firm on what is right, even under pressure, is again very, very important. Justice, ensuring fair distribution of resources and opportunities. And John Rawls principle, and also preamble of Indian Constitution. There also justice is very, very elaborately mentioned. Now, why these values matter for a civil servant? Because they are practical tools to protect citizens from arbitrary power, ensure fairness in every administrative action, strengthen constitutional morality, reduces corruption, build public trust, help officers make balanced decisions in gray areas. So these are main points why these matter, but a few other also you can write. So main I have written, but few others also can be mentioned. Now all this together, particularly which is mentioned in Constitution of India, in words of Dr. Ambedkar, is known as constitutional morality. And he says that it must become habit for those who wield authority. Now, one illustration we will take, how these values help a civil servant to decide right course of action. Suppose a minister or a politician pressures a civil servant to allocate public land to someone who is not eligible. Now, what are the values which will ensure your correct response? For example, integrity, this will prevent compromise. Objectivity, it anchors you in rules and evidence. Non-partisanship stops political influence, because you will do right whether this political party or that political party. Courage of conviction helps to stand your ground, that if some decision has been taken as per rules, I will not deviate from it. Accountability requires that all decisions be recorded and explained. So right course of action becomes clear when these values guide action. So then you can straightway say to minister, this is not permitted as per rules. Yes, there may be little discomfort, maybe little, small problem for some time. But then if you follow these values, any political leader also will understand that what is correct, what is not correct. Now we'll just to end this. A civil servant powers comes not from the post, but from the trust placed in the post. Aptitude, which we have discussed, gives an officer the capacity to act. Values, other foundational values, give direction to that action. Together, they form the essence of ethical governance, which is required for any civil servant. So basically, this completes the today's discussion on aptitude and foundational values of for civil service. In next class, we will meet with other topic. So thank you for joining me today.